right, welcome back to the DJ Rhett podcast. As always, it's DJ Rhett, and I want to thank special guests. We're going through our little mini political series. I don't like to delve into politics because I'm more of the funny guy, but I also know how important it is because right after the hurricane, I was like, oh no, we need to start talking about this stuff. And we're upon an election season. Max, come on, come down, come see. Come here, I'm gonna have to hold him. Come on, up here, come on. Yep, y'all. If y'all do the DJ Rhett podcast, you're gonna have to do the Max sniff test. Okay, he always does that. But in the studio with us today, we got Miss Kimberly Chauvin. How you doing?
Good.
Doing good. And you're running for district rep or
It's a District 8 council person.
Council person. Okay. And who currently has the position right now? Dirk. Okay. And he's actually running for a state rep now.
Yeah.
Huh? Okay.
Yeah.
So tell me about yourself, where you grew up at and school and everything like that, your upbringing.
Yeah. So I grew up in Berg.
Okay.
That's where I'm from. Well, I say where I'm from, but most of it I've been down in Chauvin because I've been married for 36 years to David Chauvin. We went to South Terrebonne, high school sweethearts, been married forever. Seems like been married forever.
Go Gators.
Yeah, so we both graduated from there in 86 and then moved down into Chauvin. And there was like a big community base, like people knew people and stuff. And they got together and did a lot of community events at that point. But so I got to know people down there. And we've been in the shrimp industry ever since because that's what David's dad did. So he went right along into that on that part.
So y'all, did y'all help out with like lanyap and all down there when y'all were trawling?
I don't know if his parents did or not because I came in 86. When did they quit the fair?
The fair ended, I think, in the mid-90s. I was a senior in high school when they did away with it. So that was 94 going into 95 because I graduated in 95. So yeah, that was the last year, 94.
I think that in that day and age, people would figure out who was doing what and everybody just contributed, seafood and different things.
Everybody contributed a couple of X amount of pounds or whatever. And it all went to everybody prepared on the fairgrounds and everything. And everything was donated. So.
Right. And it was amazing community unity.
Yeah. And that's one of the things we were talking about throughout this whole little political deal is it seemed like the Bahia, it's not like that anymore. I remember when the boat blessings were huge and the, lanyap on the Bahia was part of that. And so coming from that sense, you graduated in the 80s. Tell me how have you seen the Bahia changed over these years?
At this point, I think it's fractured.
And explain that to me.
The unity, the collaboration that you would get together and do things. The older generation has either passed away or moved on. You've had a lot of people move out of the Bayou area due to hurricanes and different things in that manner. But at this point, that I see that you would need to get together you need to do cross-generational committee to figure out how are you going to keep people here? How do you keep people? What are they looking for? Because as someone who's 55, I'm looking for something different than someone who's in their 20s.
Right.
So what do we need here? And I'm not 20, so that person's going to have a different idea. And I think that when you get people together to figure that out, that you've got something to go on. So it would be putting together that cross-generational committee, working towards figuring out critical questions that we need to ask within the community, and then moving towards the goals of a transformative process of putting together the community again.
Right.
Because I just... I don't see it, and a lot of it has to do with hurricanes, insurance, drugs. We have major issues that we have to work on. And yes, roads and drainage and bridges. I mean, the Robinson Canal Bridge going out isn't...
Right.
I don't know how you don't maintain what we already have, and then you don't have a plan for when it goes out.
Right.
So those things are bothersome. I think that we cannot be tunnel visioned in one thing. I think it's going to have to be that it's going to be a person that can multitask.
Mm-hmm.
Because someone asked me the other day, well, what's the top one? And I went, they're all in the top, because there's a lot that has to be done on this. And so I'm just kind of looking at this and I'm like, okay, if we don't begin to chisel away at some of the things that need to be done, it's going to get worse.
Right.
On that part. And I hate to see that, because it was great, like even living in Berg, it was the same. We used to swim the bayou from the little, well, it used to be the little drawbridge, all the way down to the grocery store.
Right.
I wouldn't do that today.
No. No, I remember TPR sports was so big when I was little, and I just feel like it's not. And maybe it's because my kids are not in it. They're much older, but we used to do swimming and stuff, and I enjoyed that,
Right.
And I just think if you get the right people in the right spots, it's going to flourish, Right. And but I see when I was growing up, t-ball, softball, alumni tournaments, just it was like, and there's still little patches of stuff that happens,
Right.
but it's not as big as it used to be, and you're right. There is a generational gap between, stuff that I would like to see and stuff that a 20-year-old would like to see, because when I was in my 20s, it was the barroom scene. Okay. Mm-hmm. That's how you talk to people. That's how you met. That's how you socialized. You socialize on the phone now, and to me, it's just it's another universe. You know what I'm saying? I'd much rather go to a bar or sit down and have a conversation with somebody.
Right.
But a 20-year-old might not like that, so we might have to get kind of fancy with our options here. Maybe I don't know, maybe a technology lounge where they could sit down and just sit in a pod and I don't know, but it sounds weird, but it's true,
Right. It's crazy that you watch in restaurants now, and you'll watch families on phones, even in a restaurant, when they're right in front of each other.
It's true.
And so I have grandkids that do live with me, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, like they need to be able to conversate with people like face to face, because I think that's important too. And I'm learning different things even from them, and they're 13.
Right.
Some of them are 13, 10, and 11. And I'm like, okay, so you begin to learn what they're looking for. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking at my 13-year-old and I'm like, what do you like here? What don't you like? And you're right, sports. Some of my grandkids like sports and some of them don't. So one is more into coding and doing something on the computer, and the others want to do more ball. Mm-hmm. And so I have been kind of thrown into coaching a couple of times, and I think some of the stuff with TPR is the lack of parental volunteers. You had a lot of that back in the day.
You did. You had 3, 4, 5 coaches.
Yeah. Everybody wanted to be coach.
Yeah,
Everybody
exactly.
wanted to be a coach.
It's true.
So when they threw me into it one year, and I looked at everybody else and I went, oh, I'm a grandma. Mm-hmm. Y'all all jumping up and helping. You know what I'm saying? I'm not staying in this hot sun by myself. But I'm like, everybody go get your background check. And we'll all participate in helping because I work too. Mm-hmm. And so it was one of those things where I looked in the bleachers and I'm like, no. Everybody go get it because we all going to be coached, you know. And so it was fun. It was really fun. The boys enjoyed it. We let them have fun. We didn't, like kind of go over them and you're trying to teach them the fundamentals and stuff.
Right.
So I think that I've always seen on Facebook lately, the TPR always asking for coaches.
Yep. I see that a lot.
And I think people are so overwhelmed because it's not where, mom can stay home and, dad goes to work. Mm-hmm. And so that's a bit a lot, because when you come home, you're trying to cook supper, you're trying to get
Right.
things done, and then you're trying to get. And if you have multiple kids, one may have dancing, one may have ball, one may have some. So how do you throw yourself into coaching on those parts?
Right. I coached soccer for 8 years, and let me tell you, and that's volunteer. That's
Right.
not, you're not getting paid, you're not anything.
Right.
And but it gets to a point where you're so overwhelmed, and it's like, but you see the look on those kids' faces, and it's like you don't want to disappoint them, and then eventually they start getting it, or they're either like, this is for me or not for me, and then they start splitting apart and doing their own things. And that was kind of like my easy out, like, okay, well, I don't like soccer, I like more dancing. Okay, cool, we're gonna do this or whatever,
Ooh,
so
yes.
yeah, let's do this.
Like, give me a break.
But it is, I enjoy it, because when I coached years ago, I'm seeing these young girls right now. They're not college yet, but they're in their late high school years, and they're in the playoffs in soccer and stuff like that. And I'm like, man, I had a little bit to do with that, just a tad. But yeah, I would like to see more of that, and I see that. I mean, well, down by right there by the Klondike Bridge, they're just starting to build the library and all of that stuff. What's your thoughts on that?
So I think that they do need a park in that area, because people pay their taxes, and everybody should have something. But you need to maintain what you have in the bayou area.
Right.
When you look at the bayou area, I had a really hard time with this back one of the hurricanes, because I've always been a part of Vision Christian, is the church that we attend. And so they get 18-wheeler loads of stuff that come in from all over the place when a hurricane hits. And so we would go there, and they would fill up our truck with things that people needed. And we would hit every street. But before that, people would say, oh my goodness, in the bayou area, there's so much poverty. And I would look at people and go, what are you talking about? Until you go down in the streets.
Right.
And so we would go down there, and we would hand out all kinds of stuff. Oh my goodness, I think I did that for almost every hurricane that they had, probably except for the last one.
Right.
So you began to see what was happening in the area, or how it really was. So my biggest issue is that if you don't maintain the parks down the bayou, then what are those kids going to do?
Right.
There's not much there for them to do. Our fields are a mess. They haven't been in good condition in a long time. And I look at what Dularge has, and I look at what Montague has, and I'm like, in my eyes, and I've asked this question to a lot of people. I looked in Chauvin compared to other bayous, and it was probably the most viable bayou area that they had. Why are we lacking?
Right. Like the pool. The pool. My kids swam for years, and I mean, we had nowhere to use the restroom. They would back up, after an hour of use, and it was still the plumbing from the 60s or 70s whenever it was originally put in. Yeah, it's but I mean, I remember as a kid how beautiful it was back then. It was maintained, and I don't know what happened along the way. I don't know if it was that generational gap that we didn't care, or we passed the buck. We thought it was being taken care of and didn't know. So
I don't know. That's why you have a recreation board. So it's going to matter who you put on boards. And I think that for me, it would be to sit down and talk with people who want to be on the boards, and make sure that we're somewhere along the same page of what needs to be done in the bayou area. And so I don't know what happened that everything is coming to Klondike, because I was on that task force, modernization for recreation. So when I sat on it, people would always say, well, everybody's moving out of the bayou area. And listen, I would go, so what are they doing? Like cutting up the land and taking it with them? Because don't we all have property taxes?
Right.
When I sat in the assessor's office for about an hour and a half and started looking at what was going on, it would blow your mind. And I'm like, okay, so those who have second third homes, or it's not equal.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a lot of stuff going on. And so when I went to the assessor's office, I said, okay, so how are you going to bring this up to the level that the residents pay according, to what we need? Because you have your lighting district, you have your fire district, you have recreation. I mean, there's a few more things on there. So it's taken away from those things. This has been going on for a very long time, very long time. And I think the thought was to, at that point in the Cocodrie area, was to have people to come down there, and to have a camp. I get that, I understand it. You were building it. But at some point, the levels got to be the same.
Right.
And I look in there and I see this, and they told us 5 to 6 years. I said 5 to 6 years is a slow death. It's a very slow death for that bayou, because we have a school board that's taking the schools out. I'm not okay with that. I'm not. Do you need a school as big as LaCache? Maybe not. But I do think if you're going to rebuild Upper Locaia, that you could put something there.
Put something there, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you keep the community going, because once you take the recreation out and you take the schools out, who's coming down there?
Yeah, it's good. There's a lot less incentive to go down there.
It's kind of like when we're at that task force, and they were saying, a lot of times we're losing out. We're losing out on people coming here with different technologies and different jobs and such, because the quality of life here is not what they want it to be. Mm-hmm. Well, that ticks me off. You know what I'm saying? Because we need to work on that. Mm-hmm. But we also need to work on levees and pumps and floodgates. And we also need to work on roads and bridges. And so it's a lot of things at once. So I don't think there's ever a time of not thinking about something that we have to change. Uh-huh. And one of the things I called on Joey Seahan. He works in the drainage department. I'm like, hey, can you bring me around in District 8 and show me what's been done for drainage and what's coming up and the process, and then maybe even tell me some of the things that are needed, because he lives in Acadian subdivision. And so I don't, but I need to know. Mm-hmm. So, and it's talking to people there too. And then to understand why it's there, what it does, what you need next. It's important to know those things, that when you're talking to people, that you can kind of relay those things that are needed and work to get those parts of the puzzle that need to be pieced together. Because you look at East Houma and you look at the bayou, and it's good, but it could be much, much better. And so we have to work towards getting it to the much, much better.
Do you think that, well, I mean, I don't want you to open up a can of worms, what you saw in the assessor's office, but I mean, do you think that over time, like, it's just human nature that, one day you're just lazy, you're just pushing the can down but whatever, going through the motions of life, whatever. And then one day you just look in the mirror and you're like, man, I put on a few pounds. Mm-hmm. Man, I look like that. And then it's an eye opener. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, well, I'm going to do this, and this to get myself back in shape. Right. You think a community acts like that, like natural, like, or just, we just kind of just went through the motions, went through the hurricanes, and then 20 years later, we finally wake up and we're like, what the hell's going on around here? You think that's kind of like what's going on right now? I sense that.
Oh, yeah. It's you're sitting, and it's a place of complacency.
Right.
You've got to change that. Uh-huh. And if you don't, you will die.
Right.
Because if we don't grow, we die.
Exactly.
And that's important to me. And I've used that in my businesses, that we have. And we've always said that, you have to plan for the future. Mm-hmm. Because if you don't, you're discombobulated, you're disjointed,
right.
and it's almost like you're running.
You have to embrace change. You have to,
listen,
because change is going to happen no matter what, whether you like it or not.
Listen, I say this all the time in the industry that I'm in. If you can't adapt, you're in trouble. Mm-hmm. That's all we've been doing for 36 years in the industry that I'm in.
So you're in the seafood industry. Yeah, you guys have that. So you guys just you trawl, distribute, do the whole nine, or
yeah, we do. We started out on the back deck of his dad's boat, and he purchased that. And so through the years, we've done where we own boats. Things have come to us. Doors have opened for us. In different times, different years. But so now we have docks and ice houses and supply houses and like a mini shipyard and processing. So I've been in every realm of it. Mm-hmm. So when I go to DC or when I'm going to the state, I'm not speaking on one part of it. I'm speaking on our industry as a whole, because, and I've looked at this in the community, if you don't work on this part of it, if you don't save this part of it will die. It's
going to trickle.
Right.
It will. And I mean, I grew up in that too, because my grandpa, he trawled for a living. And it's almost like a generational, it was a generational deal, because you had your generation of trawlers who in turn would drop off their catch to the processing plants, which was my nanny owned one, Roxanne. You probably know her. Yeah, Roxanne Savior. She had a deal down there, so it was like, okay, I pay you, you pay me, we do, and then they would distribute it out, and it was like, so now I don't see that as much as I used to. These conveyor belts I don't see it as much. You don't see as much as the processing down the by. You see a lot of these trawlers on the side of the road trying to sell their stuff, And to me, that's kind of like, wait a minute. People like you would be probably paying all kind of processing fees, health fees, inspection fees, and yet these people can go on the side of the road. But I get it, because they'd rather skip all the middleman processing and make a nice living. You know what I'm saying? And how would you incorporate all of that,
So the issue with most of them don't want to be on the side of the road selling.
Right, they don't.
They don't. But
they want to get rid of their catch.
Right, because of what's happening in Congress, or lack of happening in Congress, and administrations, you've gotten to a point where you're going to solely go to imports, and most of the time that's what's happening in this country, and people don't even realize it. But you get so you take away from the culture and the heritage of where we're at, and when people go to a restaurant, they think that they're eating our seafood, and literally have no idea that most of the times it's imports. But we have a lot of mom and pop restaurants here that they will do local. They will do local. But that guy and that woman that's on the side of the road, it's almost like a forced thing at this point, because the prices are low, and that has everything to do with the imports and what is happening on the federal level, because people are not doing their jobs. But when you come into the part where a dock or a processor, and they have a lot of different things, it's equivalent. When you look at the part of the businesses that you're in, it's really equivalent to what they have fees and different things that they have to pay aboard boats and stuff like that too. It's just not the same, but I have boats, so I understand it. When you get to the ice houses and the supply parts of it, you begin to affect that, because a lot of times you're not making money on ice and fuel. You are unloading shrimp, and you're making a certain amount on that part of it. So if you look to the western part of the state, from St. Mary all the way to Cameron, there's not much infrastructure left. I think there's an ice house in Intracoastal.
And
the one in Delcom is done.
That used to be popping.
So let me tell you what happens is that you have parishes that, or people in government within the parish that didn't realize how important the seafood industry was until it was gone. And Delcom did that, and it died. And now they're trying to revive it in that part. But I don't see people coming back in to go spend, big amounts of money to put an ice house together, because once it's gone, it's a lot of money to put it back together, and you would have to charge so much more for like a block of ice, which is 300 pounds that goes into a boat. So in between all this, what we did was I started working with the tourism board, because I figured that, if we do not educate people on the seafood industry and how important it is to buy local or to buy domestic, we were going to be in trouble, which we already are at that point. But we still do that. So we have people that come in by the busload, work with the home and tourism board, and they have people that will want to come in, like writers and bloggers and different things. And then we'll have buses that come in, associations. We've met with cattle people. We've met with farmers, and you see the parallel in the food industry. It's pretty frightening that we're going to be a nation of purely consuming things and produce nothing.
Right.
And that's a scary thing, because if you ever look at anything on the food part, that's the easiest part to get to hurt America.
Right.
And you already have a lot of it happening. You have imported seafood that you had the World Health Organization say that it will cause antibiotic resistance. It was something done in 2019. Why our federal government hasn't taken it to the hilt and say, because you can put quotas. The World Trade Organization, there was something out that said that if you have policy rationale, which rational in Congress doesn't.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense. Yeah, that's a joke, So, when you're looking at this, but it poses a health crisis. It's important that you know. It's important that you read that box. It's important that you understand what you're eating. Right.
With that. And people say, "Oh, I'm going to go someday." I don't want to be like that.
Yeah.
I would, much rather go in a different fashion.
Exactly.
But, so for our industry right now, what we're doing is working the grassroots. So I understand how to put resolutions together, put ordinances together, look at the pros and cons of things. And so we've done 2 in the last month and a half. We've gone from Cameron all the way to the eastern part of the state. So one was because of it was an executive order that President Biden signed, which is, we're looking to limit the overall volume of imports. And it is for underserving communities and support of. And so you have to put all that together, grassroots, and then go to our trade representative and the Department of Commerce. So it begins to be a task that you understand that if you don't come up from grassroots so that they understand that the states see it, and it goes all the way down to the local part of it and we're the only one with parishes, but counties and parishes kind of see that. And so that's one of the things that we're doing. The other one had to do with the part that's going to bring in the health crisis. So we have something that we're bringing in with that one. And I just put together a resolution also. And so it's just working the system.
Right.
And you got to get creative with it.
Yeah.
Because there are people that go, I hate being told you can't do something.
Right.
It just motivates me even more to try and figure out a way. There's always a loophole in government.
Right.
And I've noticed this because we spent like $6-7 million going bringing anti-dumping suit against imports. And here comes the Department of Commerce. Well, they have discretionary authorization to not collect. What?
That's awesome.
But it's a loophole. So
Yeah.
those in politics, those who have been in politics, they know that there are loopholes.
Right.
So help us figure it out so that we can fix what we have here locally.
Are they just letting imports in here because they're a lot cheaper? Like, is that what it is? What is the reason why they're just flooding the market with imports? Because between California, the East Coast, Maine, us down here, Florida, Texas, you got a lot of seafood opportunities everywhere, you know. Why wouldn't we? I mean, what is the ultimate What is the all be all to let that in?
They've always said if we don't allow that stuff in, then they're going to not allow different things into their countries, which, okay.
All right.
Yeah, but that's the reasoning. That's what we get. And so even in our industry, they've taken I think it's 50 to 60 million a year, but they've never given it back to the industry.
So you mean to tell me this is like a bargaining chip? That they're putting on local seafood, just say, oh no, we need to have this because if not, they won't give us furs or dishes or containers of junk.
Right. But they're not even doing what they're supposed to do with the food.
Right.
FDA is supposed to check. Everybody keeps saying that they're doing 5%. I'm like, y'all better go back and look at them numbers.
So I'm assuming they're just sending this packaged, already froze up and ready to go. They're not sending it over there raw and on ice,
So we took a trip. We met someone who was in his 70s, really nice guy. He's from Australia. His ethnicity he's Chinese, but he moved to Australia and stayed there. And so he had millions of frequent flyer miles, and so we went to China with him because we were exporting. When Obama was president, we had exported some stuff, and I was like, okay, we can do this, and so when we met with them, the Chinese man that we were speaking to told my husband that, he goes, America is so stupid. And listen, when you're sitting there and you're going, excuse me? Excuse me. But then you're thinking about it, you're going, oh, he's talking about the government, not Americans, you know. And so he proceeded to tell us how they package everything. The first 2 to 3 pallets are pristine. So they have that place that they put those shrimp.
Right.
And they have that facility that they do them in. But the rest of it is junk. And it's been with antibiotics and chemicals and you name it. And
steroids,
he said they do not go
stuff.
past the second part of the pallet.
So they don't they inspect the first couple of pallets and then
If they even do that.
Inspect it,
So since COVID, it's less than 1% of all seafood. Shrimp is not the only thing to come into this country. There's a lot of fish.
Oh man.
So if you're looking at, and somebody said, well, 1%, that's a lot if they bring in $1 billion. I went, no, it's not. And it's not acceptable because the EU does way more than that. So we've been asking for the same criteria as the EU. In the EU, when you bring that junk there, it will absolutely destroy it. This is the only country that I know that can pinpoint you on a map and tell you what you've been talking about, but can't tell you which port shrimp comes in at and how it's been. It's like they'll take a container and say, this can't come through, and watch it go through the next port. But where's the technology at?
Right.
Homeland Security, what are you doing?
So they won't check in on one customs, so they'll go to the next port and get checked in over there, and
It comes through. So every once in a while, we'll see something now. Oh, this didn't come through. Okay, didn't come through on that port. That doesn't mean it didn't shop around.
Right.
So and that's all on the on the federal level and stuff like that. So there are things that can be done in the parish, which we're working on the resolutions. There are things that can be done stateside. Right now, it is getting the governor, who is on his way out, to recognize that we need a fisheries disaster declaration so that we can get this to Department of Commerce, because something has to be done. Like it's a make or break kind of thing for some people this year. But these prices are disgusting. And people keep putting these prices out, and I'm like, guys, they're not understanding that that's a peel price. That means that you're going to take that shrimp and you're gonna send it over to a dock or a processor, whatever it may be, and they're gonna peel it. That's not a retail kind of shrimp.
Right.
That's a whole different ball of wax.
Yep.
And I think it gets confusing, on the part of when you're not understanding the whole of your industry and what others have been doing up there. So in dealing with that, it's kind of prepared me for the fight that is in me to fix the communities.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I look around and I'm just like flabbergasted at
Yeah.
what we're going through. And some of it's from Ida,
Yeah.
but not all of it.
No.
This has been ongoing.
Yeah, and I think I think Ida was the camel that broke the was the straw that broke the camel's
Right.
back. I think that's what happened, and I think it just opened a lot of people's eyes because I'm talking to everybody through these podcast series, and I'm like, man, it's so refreshing to see a lot of people coming out and run for something.
Oh,
It's so refreshing because I'm like,
awesome.
man, this is like, and I joke with the candidates because I'm like, it's probably not refreshing for you that you got to vote against everybody. You're going against everybody. But to me, as just a citizen looking at this, I'm like, man, this means that our community cares and they're opening their eyes and they starting to see what's happening. And I would love, and I have a productions company. I would love to video to show a day in the life of a trawler, like what they do. Because I mean, my song "We Trawlin'" had over 1.5 million views because I'm making fun of what they do. Not making fun, just actually glorifying it
Right.
and making a parody out of another song. And a lot of people are like, people do that down there? And I'm like, yeah, they pull a net behind a boat and catch shrimp. And they're like, I never knew how. I thought they just threw a net out there. Well, you can do it that way. You can do it a paupière. You can do it. So I think a lot of people just don't know the ins and outs of the industry to make them see that, man, that really is pretty
it's hard
important
work.
and it's hard
Yeah.
work. Yeah. Man, I think I got back surgery because of that. I got back surgery a couple of years ago. I blamed it on DJing and picking up speakers. No, just picking up them bushels of crabs and the, trieing all day long,
One year, my husband, and we were young then, and we were painting the back deck, and he gave me a brush. And then the deckhands came the next day, and he gave him a roller. I went, you got to be kidding me. Because this was no little boat. This was like, it's a 70-foot trawler. And I'm like, I'm going to freaking kill you.
Oh, yeah.
Like that was a lot of work. And you sit and you back, you're on your knees and you're getting it done. But
oh, yeah. I've never been on the back of a trawl boat that they didn't take pride in that. I mean, every shrimper back there it's slick and it's like got fresh coat of paint on it and everything. Yeah. But I remember, growing up, going down the bay and just seeing those boats, like seeing tons of boats. And you just don't see that anymore. You see a lot of them in the bay, half sunken,
Yeah, that's not acceptable either.
No.
And so in the 1980s, you had over 30,000 that would trawl, like not just in Louisiana, but in the federal waters from Florida to Texas. Mm-hmm. We're down to, I think it's 700.
From 30,000 to 700.
Yeah, and it's because of regulations.
Yeah,
and
it's almost better to go make a living somewhere else than do that.
People who know nothing about being
are regulating
it, and even some of the Coast Guard people that come down here, they're like, "Well, this doesn't even make sense." We tried to tell you.
What's some of the ridiculous regulations? Like name one or two off the top of your head that you would love to change and see go away, or
in our industry.
Yes.
Okay, so I will tell you that the turtle excluder devices.
Right. TEDs.
Okay, so you have that, and maybe at one time it was needed, but you have all these environmentalists, and I say that because it's a so-called thing because you're just trying to save your job at this point. Do I believe that there are some environmentalists trying to save something? Yes. Not the ones we've been going against. Mm-hmm. Every time, and I sat on a federal board of a shrimp advisory, every time we would ask for the number of nestings, it was like pulling teeth to get it. And so it's
research on the sea turtles.
Well, it's gravitated to where you can get it, but they always raise the number of nestings that they want to see. So
just to
that's
pad their numbers, or do they have proof of that?
This is what I'm going to tell you that one of the biologists told me when I took the seafood leadership back in, it was back a while. And she said, the fourth floor is bean counters. They're going to make it come out whichever way the policy needs to come out because it's a political force that they're dealing with. And that changed my mind about everything that comes out of NOAA, which is people that regulate our industry. Because all of a sudden now we have a rice well issue. In all the years that I sat on this federal board that should have been brought up, it's like it just popped up. I'm like, oh, okay, so magically it just appeared. And then we have wind farms. So what are you wanting it for?
Yeah.
You want to shut down part of the Gulf for that. And so you made up something? And so that's the type of stuff that we deal with.
Right.
In the TED that we use, in the turtle excluder device that we use, they won't even count the bycatch that is released from that. Now, there's a big, huge hole in your net.
Right.
So now we have to pull a fish excluder device.
Oh, no.
So now you have two
holes. And then you gotta catch us. Oh man, you gotta make 3 times the amount of trips to catch the same amount. You know,
It's great.
And I mean, let's. I don't know how these things work. How many turtles do you catch? Because I remember when I was little, I don't remember seeing turtles a lot in the trawl. I don't remember that. You know,
No.
and then when they made them put that in there, it's like, okay, that I remember my. We used to make fun of that. I was at South Terrebonne in high school, and then when that came out in the 90s, like they had to put that screw the Teds. It was so funny, you know, but it is like putting a hole in your net.
It is.
It's what it is. So they got a fish one now? I didn't even know that.
Yep.
What kind of fish you got to save?
Well, we would term it as junk fish, but when we do catch it, we save it because we sell it to the zoos and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well, zoos and stuff.
Oh, zoos that feed the seals and stuff?
All of
yeah.
that. So, but it has reduced it even with the turtle excluder device, but they never put that out. They never tell you how much. So we went to do what would be called a naked TED test. So it would be that you have a TED in one net and you don't in the other net, and know about flipped, because it was supposed to be, it was a grant that had came down, and I think it was not Sea Grant, it was a fisheries foundation that wanted to do it. They about flipped. They were like,
because
no, this does not happen. They didn't allow it to happen. And
because one of them didn't have a TED?
Well, one net would have one net wouldn't. But they didn't allow it because they don't want you to know what you're missing.
Yeah. See, they don't want you to prove that
it would be serious.
TCs.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's stuff like that. I mean, listen, so you have to have a DEQ permit on a dock of the same water that they're trawling in. I'm doing nothing different. I said, so my question was to him, okay, so if you find something in this bayou water, what are you going to do? And he went, well, nothing. Then why aren't you testing the water?
Right.
You know, why is it my job to spend buku amount of money on testing from water that's right here that you're going to do nothing with?
Right.
It is
makes no sense.
The stupidity of government, you know, and I think that we just have way too much government interference in businesses. We have way too much government interference in people's personal lives. I mean, you pay taxes. You pay in sales tax, you pay in property tax, things that we need.
Right.
But then you're going to also come tax me on something that I paid sales tax on, forklift.
Mm-hmm.
I paid the sales tax on it. Now you're going to come tax me every year again?
Right.
What?
Yeah.
How did this get to be okay?
I know.
And why are we standing for things like this?
Yeah.
And somebody goes, well, you don't want to take it away because it was paying something. Wow. Let's get creative and let's figure out how we're going to take it away, but how we're going to still pay for the things that we have. And some of these things, do you really need?
Yeah. And then you got to get certified for a forklift too. You got to pay that. Yeah.
Well, in the area of shrimping, it's a little different because I put my grandkids on it. This is not a toy, but you will learn how to use it. And listen, I have one of my grandkids. He is adamant he is not going to be an outside kid. Uh-huh. And so he's like, this is not what I want to do. I don't care.
Right.
You will suffer with the rest of us every summer
mm-hmm.
in the heat.
It's true.
And you're going to learn.
He's going to learn to love it.
Well, this is the thing. Even if he doesn't, he's going to respect the person that works that job later on in life, or that's doing another job outside. Maybe you may be an inside person that works a different part or something different, but you're going to respect other people that have jobs and such. That's been something, to try and get across to them. I
shoveled shrimp out of an ice hole one or two summers, and my grandpa was like, "You gonna do this the rest of the life?" I said, "No, I'm gonna make straight A's and go to college." And I went to college, but I mean, I still loved it enough to just go down there to have fun. I mean, it was fun to me. It wasn't work to me. It was like, man, we're catching we're catching our own food right here.
Right.
It's like, it's crazy. It was crazy to me. And abundance. I mean, it was it was nothing to catch a half a bushel of soft shell crabs, then you got your 8 bushels of crabs. And then it was so fun to grow up down to buy down there. And then now it's just, and you're right. The generational gap and the technology gap, when we were growing up, we didn't have, cell phones. We just had what was in front of us to keep us busy. We had bikes, we had the radio. I think the most technological thing we had was a Sony Walkman that we could put in our ear, and we had to carry the device with us. It wasn't like a little phone with all our songs on it. Oh, yeah. And I just think we learned to appreciate things down there a little bit more than we do these days. It's a lot easy. I can go to the shack in Houma and have a shrimp po' boy, and I'm like, man, this shrimp right here was, I don't know where it came from. Probably the restaurant came imported, probably. I don't know.
No, he got our shrimp. He got our shrimp. He got my shrimp.
No, I know him over there. Yeah. No, but I know a lot of these restaurants, they'll get processed food to get in, and then they'll just prepare it. Mm-hmm. And I think Willis Trusclair on his little podcast, he said that if you look at the bottom, you could read it, and it says, you got to see where it's imported from, like
that's a country of origin.
It's true, the country of origin. Yeah, that's what he's talking about.
Yep. And that's an FDA rule that you have to have it on there. So that's a federal ruling.
But it's so tiny,
Oh, what? And then you have to look past.
It's like the guy that the back of the commercial. I said it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It is like that. And so I tell people all the time when I do that tour, is that you have to read past processed in the USA to see what country, because sometimes when it's coming out of different places, it will have that. It will have, it was processed in the USA. Mm-hmm. And people were like, it's
USA.
And it was like, no. And
Mm-hmm.
so that just happened to, I think it was called Prime. And if you looked at it, it had all the LSU colors. It was in one of the grocery stores. And it was from, I think, Ecuador or Indonesia. So if you read the back of it, but it had a United States flag on it because it was processed here by Latrim, which is the peeling machines, but they have another venue, which is called Prime. And so they had this in the grocery stores, and we were like, you've got to be kidding me.
So wait. You're
trying to trick people.
They peel the shrimp here in the United States. So they freeze
Not peel it.
They don't peel.
They're just doing, like, they'll
take it. Or
no, it'll probably come in peeled. But in the Prime bag, and I think that's what it was, the Prime bag, what they would do is they would take they would package 8 ounces of shrimp, and then they would package all the other things that need to go in it. And it was a ready mixed meal.
Oh, okay.
Because people, listen, the generations
when I say processed, okay,
yeah,
all right, yeah.
When the generations under us are probably so busy that most people are not cooking from scratch anymore.
They're just throwing some processed stuff in
and
eating it.
Yeah. And you don't even know what's in it.
Ugh.
You don't know what's in it. And so that's a big no-no for me. But
I'm telling y'all, if you get you some processed shrimp from the store and it's imported, and then you go get you a fresh thing out of the bayou over here, and you fry both of them, and you take, there's no difference. It's night and day.
Oh, yeah.
Night and day. There's nothing like bayou water. Especially when you grew up on it. But I'm telling you right now, that processed shrimp is disgusting. It's like salty. It has it's rubbery. It's weird.
It's the chemicals.
Yeah.
It's the chemicals that are in it. And so that does everything. But you if you're not raised here, then sometimes you just don't know. But I have people that come down to our dock all the time from all over the place. Listen, one of the ones that was so funny was, so I bring my grandkids around to know where the beef comes from, to know where the vegetables are coming from, so that they understand that food doesn't magically appear in a grocery store.
Right.
And so we go to farmers markets. I've done a lot of farmers markets. I've had to revert back to doing what I did 20 years ago, which is go to farmers markets and sell our product. And so they come and work it. And so they see all this stuff. But they understand where their food is coming from. Mm-hmm. But I had college kids from Connecticut one time. They said, a shrimp comes with a head? And I didn't even know how to answer it. It was almost
they thought
like
it just come. like this. Butterflied. That's how we catch it. It's already butterflied with the tail on it, no head.
So that was pretty interesting that people have no clue where their food source is coming from. That was eye-opening.
That's nuts.
And so you begin to figure out not everybody is raised in the same atmosphere of knowing these things. And so we looked at trying to do tours aboard the boats, and it's the insurance. And that was a big thing for Blessing to the Fleet. Like when you mentioned it used to be a really big thing. And people would jump on other people's boats.
Oh, yeah.
Problem is nobody takes personal responsibility. My God, if you stub your toe in a restaurant or a grocery store, it's a lawsuit.
Yeah.
I had somebody that came down to our place. He can't even say he was really at my dock. I've never seen him before. But he said that a door hit his arm and he sued. He was suing us. And I'm like, and listen, the stuff that they sued you for is so ridiculous that the insurance company goes, just give him some money. And I'm a fighter. So I was like, oh, hell no, you're not.
No, you're not.
You are not. Yeah. And he said it's going to cost more. This is the rationale. It's going to cost more to bring this to court to prove that he did not know where he was even at than it is just to pay him out. And I went, this is ridiculous.
Yeah. Why am I on the hook for his stupidity?
So my insurance goes up at that point.
Because you had to pay a claim, a bogus claim. Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
And so it's like that aboard boats. Like the last one that we did, somebody jumped on our boat. We didn't even know him. And we're like, oh my goodness, what are you doing here? Mm-hmm. And you would love to be able to take people and do those type of things.
Right.
It's the personal responsibility.
You can't be too sure these days.
Yeah.
I mean, back in the old days, I remember that nobody would have life jackets on. Nobody. I mean, everybody's down to buy hydro sliding, flying through the pollens and stuff. I'm like, surprised we weren't dead to kill ourselves back then.
I'm telling you, like you looked at it like that, like you look back on it. Mm-hmm. But I mean, it was just like this big, huge community of people.
Exactly. Everybody was outside. You had tons of people on the side of the road. People were balling everything they can get their hands on.
I miss that.
I went down this past year just to go take some pictures just to see. Yeah, I think they had 4 boats down there, 4 or 5 boats, and they go out there, they wave, and then they come right back. It wasn't like they stay out there all day. They had bands on the boats. It was crazy, But I'm glad to see someone like you and everybody else want to bring that back, and then we're gonna have to get into positions like this to get our message out and everything like that. So if elected, what would be your first order of business? What would you like want to tackle first?
I think that cross-generational committee is something that is needed so that we can plan for the future to have a community. There is also it's really not going to be one thing, because I look across the board. You have a drug issue, and it's all over this parish.
Right.
It is everywhere. I've talked to Jessica about it. I've talked to Willis about it.
I've seen a lot more people just walking down the road with it's obviously a mental health issue and drugs. It is. The two go together, though. Right. And I see it a lot more in like the nicer, I don't want to say nicer neighborhoods, but you starting to see people just walk down, and it's like, wow, it's like it popped up from out of nowhere, and it needs to be addressed, but it's almost like, who takes that first step to address that? Like, how do you approach that? Well, I think that's the ultimate thing. You don't want to be the bad guy in the situation, but you also don't want to turn a blind eye to the situation, because that person, even though you're trying to help them out, could turn into a problem, a nuisance. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I think it comes to this part. So there was a suit against the pharmaceutical companies. There are grants there. And I had this conversation 4 years ago with people running. And I'm like, it's not like we have to pull things from here. We can go after the grants. There are no rehabilitations here. There are centers here. No, let me take it back. There's no women's rehabilitation centers here. I think that there is one men's, and I think that it has to do with Living Word Church. Mm-hmm. But you are in need of some.
Yeah.
And then you're in need of sober living, because you have to teach them how to get back out in public and work and, So there's a lot of research that I've done into it. But there is no first step that is being taken. We can't jail everyone.
Yeah.
And when I asked, because I specifically asked this question, the crime rate, what does it due to? 95% is due to drugs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So when do we begin to do stuff? And it's not going to be, do you really want to pay for somebody to be in jail all the time?
Nope.
Do we need to build bigger jails?
And look, I went to Ashland a couple of weeks ago. Never been to a jail before in my life, and I'm going through Leadership Terrebonne right now. And that was one of our little sessions, and it's just sad to see people and it looks like they're in, and then they might be out, and then they're in. It's like a merry-go-round, and it's like, I hate to see the same people in there, in and out. That means we're not doing anything for them. You know what I'm saying? And I know it's not, this is a community issue. It's not just one person's problem, to throw it on somebody. Another thing we need a lot of, we need counselors, psychiatrists. We need
that all comes into the rehab part of it. So in that, you would have a support system for parents, because some of the parents, they don't know what to do. They don't know, should you be doing certain things? And listen, there's no silver bullet. There's no, people say, oh, tough love. No, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Yeah, it all depends.
It's not like the paddle.
It's not the same, because this thing has a hold on their brain. And listen, I've heard people say that it's different from the drugs of way back when. I don't know. That was not something that I did.
Yeah.
So I don't understand that. My addiction is food. Yeah. I love food, and so
I love being a couillon. That's my addiction.
So that has its own realm of issues. But when you're looking at this, we have to begin to take a step. Yeah. And that's what I said about chiseling away at things.
It's so you can't eat the elephant in one bite. You got to take the first step.
And so you work with people, you're collaborating with people to say, okay, this is what I meant by this. But you have to have, there are good intentions all over this parish. There really are. But if all it is an intention, we're never moving. Right. We're not progressing. We're not going to fix the problems. Right. I'm a solution solver. This is where a problem solver. I look for those solutions, and then you got to figure out how to get around it. And that's what I've been doing in my industry forever. Right. Trying to look for the solutions to what we do. A lot of it that stands in the way is federal government and state government, because there is you're not recognizing what you have. It's the same with the drug thing. Everybody wants to, not everybody, but you have a lot of people wanting to sweep it under the rug, or it's not my problem. It's all of our problems, because it's affecting every bit of our communities within this parish. It's also affecting outside of this parish. It's a major, major deal. It is. And it's coming in from everywhere. We keep saying, where's the stuff coming from? I don't know if you'll ever find where it's all coming from, but my goodness, if we never begin the process. Right. I mean, listen, that's not for the weak of heart to deal with addiction. Right. And you're watching somebody slam into a brick wall daily.
It's true. It's true. And then a lot of the addictions too are not self-causing. Some of them are like, hey, I got in a wreck and I took this pill, and then all of a sudden you're addicted to that pill, But
they didn't tell you.
Exactly. You have to have a little outreach for that. Now, I remember back in the day, if I got a tooth pulled or something like that, they'd give you 90 of those pills. Like it was nothing. And it's like, now I think with regulations, you can only get 10, or that's it, or it's released at a certain time and stuff, because those things, them people would get addicted to them things,
but they weren't telling you.
No fault of their own. Exactly.
They weren't telling you. And so we have some of that, and then we have almost like a generational thing where it's like, the grandfather was alcoholic, and then next thing you know, the daughter was in drugs, and now the granddaughter, and so how do we stop the cycle? A lot
of broken homes, as families, a lot of kids out of wedlock, and single moms or single dads, don't have both parents, right? And then you have the grandparents ended up kind of raising these things, and you know how grandma and grandpas are, sha. And you need these kids. You need some, I don't want to say hard discipline, but you need tough love in some kids' life too, you know, to get them on the right path, you know?
It's the generational gap. Think about it, because when that grandparent was raising their kids, you could do all the stuff that they were doing. Right. It's a different world. Listen, I would never let my grandkids go walking down the street in Chauvin.
Oh, no.
Never. You know, and think about it.
20, 30 years ago,
Yeah. You used to probably walk down to the pool.
Yep. I lived in Presque Isle. I told my little girl the other day, I said, this used to be all trees back here. I said, we were in those woods at 8 o'clock in the morning, and we didn't come out until we heard Daddy whistle.
Right.
Or the light came on.
Right.
I would never, like, she's like, can I go ride my bike around the neighborhood? Oh, hell no. You know? I mean,
because it's scary for us.
It is.
Because in our area, so you start to look, you pull up, you know, like even on a pedophile list, you start to look at that and you're going, no. So I've showed my grandkids and I've said, this is why.
Yeah.
Because it's dangerous.
Yeah.
And then you never know who you're going to meet up with on the street, meaning, you know, you have people who are on drugs and walking the streets, and you don't know how it's affecting them.
Right.
You know, listen, when I see that sort of thing, or like they're holding up a sign, or I've had people come to my car. And so what I keep is, it's a card of a rehab that they can get to, that's not going to cost them at that point.
Right.
And I'm like, and I'll look at them and go, you know, what are you doing? Think about it. Like, because you catch them at a time where they're in and out of it. And I'm like, I'll get you food, but I'm not going to give you money, because I'm not going to be the one to have you overdose.
Exactly.
You know, and so that's scary, because I've had somebody do that at my dock where they overdose, and we had to Narcan them, and we had to call 911. That's a very scary thing to watch. That's somebody's kid.
Exactly.
You know, and so I know a lot of them, you know, want to throw away lock them up in jail and throw away the key, but then we're all paying for it.
Yeah. Yeah, we're not doing any favors to ourselves.
Right,
you know?
right. So we're going to have to build another jail?
Yeah.
No, I don't want to do that. So some kind of way we have to do that. So that's a big thing. The maintenance on bridges. Oh my goodness. We have got to start making some relationships with the state because that's where it's going to.
That's Corps engineers too, huh? That deal with that. I mean, it's more of a, because it's the state, they got so many tests and so many this and so many that, you know, and it's
like, I wonder why things cost so much. Like I look at even in recreation, go look at something that you would purchase and something that they would purchase. It's going to be almost like 10 times higher.
It's true. And the Berg Bridge, how long it's been down now? 2 years, at least 2 years. I don't know how long it's been. But they threw up that Rouse's like it was nothing. You know what I'm saying?
Listen, business, government. And that will probably be my biggest frustration, because I run businesses. And I'm like, let's get it. And, you know.
Why not run that bridge like a business? Like, okay, here we go. We got our contracts. We got this. Boom, 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 boom. We should have a timeline. We should know when this is going to be done.
I wish we could. But the problem is, I'm telling you, this is what's going to be the problem, is that somebody's brother-in-law is going to get a backdoor deal. And it is where it's still costing more than it probably should. And so that's been the thing that I get told. And that, you know, the political favors.
Right.
The political favors. I mean, my God, just run the parish or run the state like it's supposed to be run, so that we can all just have a nicer place to live.
I don't understand
that can engage.
I don't understand that. If I don't pay my mortgage, I'm going to get thrown out my house, right?
Right.
So I pay my taxes. If I don't, I'll go to jail if I don't pay my taxes. Okay. Why can y'all not fix my bridge? Why can y'all not do this? Why can y'all not do this? And then who's not held accountable? You know what I'm saying? Well, like we got to hold somebody accountable for this junk, you know?
So why does it take 5 years to build a bridge? Why? Because I asked this question to those running for parish president. I've talked to some of them. That's a lot of what I do. And I said, why does it need to take so long? Because in a business, I'd be out of business before it'd be finished. I know. So that makes no sense to me.
If it took Rouse's 5 years to build that, what? Yeah. Like, I mean, they throw up Walmarts around here and Targets around here in 6 months' time. Like nothing, you know? I don't get it. I don't get it.
It's the process. Have you looked at the process? Oh, the process is insanity.
Well, you know what? If they can come and if they live down here, if anybody of them live down here, that bridge would have been done in about 6 months.
Oh, I agree. No. That I agree. Every project is like that. If they lived in that particular area,
It's
it
done.
affected their business or it affected where they lived, it would be done.
Right.
That's the unfairness of it.
Yeah.
So
That bridge right there is creating nightmares for everybody down here, and everybody's got enough.
Oh no,
Everybody got enough.
I 100% get it because we go to church in Berg right there, and I'm like, okay, how long?
Yeah.
This seems like it's 10 years now.
Right.
It really does.
It
When we go down
does.
there, it's like, oh my God, how long it's been down? And nobody, you can't remember because it's been down forever at this point.
Look, I make parodies and I make fun of stuff, and I made fun of the Shriva Trail over there, and the next day they moved it when I did so I might go make a bird song and get it going.
But it's crazy that it has to be, because we should be looking at and have priority lists, of projects. But I think that, in the church that I go to, he would always preach that relationships release resources. Mm-hmm. And that's happened a number of times. Listen, I can't tell you, even in my industry, it's happened a number of times for us. And it's just cultivating relationships. So maybe that's a part of the process.
Yeah, I think we need to talk. I think we need to talk to more people and find out who's responsible for this, who's responsible for that. Okay, this person we need to talk to. Hey, let's fix this bridge. What's the come on. I know you can kind of bog yourself down in the day-to-day politics and the day-to-day stuff, but no, I mean, we got to take care of our communities down here.
To be honest, I don't know why I don't know how we're going to have any space for shenanigans anymore.
Yeah.
There is no more.
No.
There's no more time. We've got to fix the things. And listen, I look in the East Homer part of it, and I look down the by, and then I look within the parish, and then I go to other places, and I begin to ask questions of, what taxes do y'all have? How does this work? And, so much nicer. Mm-hmm. And I look in our bayou area, and, I went and take pictures in the recreation because they have a meeting coming up where, I'm going to attend it. Mm-hmm. I've sat down with the fire chief. I'm going to look at drainage. I'm going, I want to look at the roads and the bridges inside the parish, in the district that I'm running for, to see what we have going on. When's our maintenance project? Because, we have some roads in our areas that need to be fixed. Some are state roads, some are parish roads. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be to know and develop those relationships with people. And like I said, I just met with the chief, Amanda, the fire chief. Uh-huh. And
Amanda's in my leadership class. Right
okay. Now. Yeah. She did say that. And so her sense of community involvement is kind of where I'm at, and so I was listening to her, and I'm like, okay, we got one here. So you can, going into these meetings, you begin to meet with the people that are like-minded in saying that we've got to encompass this whole community and try and pull them together. Right. And so she's got some things I think they're doing trunk or treat, they're doing a health thing, and those are awesome things because it pulls the community together.
Yeah, I think outreach is one thing we're sorely lacking around
Very
here.
much.
And with social media, there should be no reason why we shouldn't be putting out these little pieces on, what's good about our community, why we thrive, what we need this on that, when we need that. And I just think if we utilize those tools, we're gonna make Terrebonne way better.
Social media can be used to do a lot of different things, and one of the things that I want to do, if this progresses forward and, and I am elected, is to keep people involved, to try and get them involved and to engage them in that. And listen, you're not going to make everybody happy.
No.
So you better have a lot of thick skin going in there. And at this point in this industry, it's like alligator skin.
It's tick, huh?
It is.
You got some tick skin.
Yeah, because you cannot make everybody happy. But at least if you're doing something, and getting things done.
This is what I said. And everybody asked me, Rhett, you ought to run for something because you care about it. I said, well, look, I mean, I'm more of the funny guy, and I like to see everything from everybody's point of view. I'm not one of these people that hey, this is my idea and that's it. I actually love to meet with more people that disagree with me, because why sit around with people who agree with me the whole day long? Because that's false. Yeah. Maybe there's an idea that, like you said, when you start getting with all these contacts and you start talking to people, it's gonna reveal something from that person that you met. Wait a minute. wait, you do this? Wait, hang on a second. Da 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 da. And you will not believe, especially in politics, if you start talking to somebody that has a R or D or whatever behind it, and you just start talking to them without politics, and you start getting on their level, and you find some common ground, then you can start from there. You know what I'm saying? Instead of just, you're a Democrat, you're a Republican, pro-life, It's like, stop. That's why we don't have nothing done.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I embrace the people. And like I said, I'm always scared of that too. It's like, if you put your name in the hat, 50% of the people hate you already, And it's like, well, you know what? I probably got 80% of people that don't like me anyway. You know what I'm saying? But I know people are doing this for a reason. Their heart's in it. It's in the right place. They want to see a better future for, like, they don't want to see, I don't want to see this place dried up. And 20 years from now, if we do nothing, there's going to be there's going to be nobody here.
That's my fear. And you're right. You have to get with other people that don't think like you.
Yep.
There's a reason for that. If we're all the same, then we're robotic.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
It would be heaven already. We'd all be, this is great. This is great. This is great.
But somebody else might have different opinions, and then you figure it out where you can kind of, that's how you find that loophole.
Common ground.
It's how you find it to get around what you need.
That's it.
And so that's something that I'm looking at, and it needs to be done.
Yeah.
Because doing the same old is not cutting it.
Nope.
It's not cutting it.
That same wheel going round and round.
Have gotten complacent.
Yep.
Or we've had tunnel vision for too long.
Yep.
And now the things that are done, like, the levees and floodgates and stuff, that's all needed stuff.
Yeah.
It really is.
It is.
But we it's not going to take, somebody said, well, if you run, you're going to have to do all this. And I'm like, oh no, we need to engage the community.
Yeah.
There needs to be more.
It ain't just one person.
Nobody can say one thing.
Yeah. I mean,
you can start something.
Right.
And you can bring it to fruition, but it's going to take engaging the community and the community involvement.
Right.
To
You're
get
running.
it done.
You're running for a council position, which is a district or an area, right? Mm-hmm. It ain't gonna. You're representing all those people. Mm-hmm. It's going to take all those people to make a change, not just one person.
Right.
It's the
you
leader.
You throw
You're
that
just
rock
leading
in
them.
You throw that rock in the bayou,
Right.
and it makes that little ripple, and then
Right.
people start jumping.
Last thing. I hate seeing people that when they get in politician, they're just like da, 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 da. I love seeing them on the side of the road. I love seeing them out in the community. I love seeing them shaking hands. I love seeing them being at different events, not just every 4 years. You know what I'm saying?
A leader is a servant.
Me. Yeah.
A leader is a servant.
Right.
And if you do not have the heart for people and to fix things and to see everybody thriving,
mm-hmm.
I don't know that you belong.
Yeah, you don't belong in that.
And I have no aspirations to become whatever else in politics.
Right.
I really don't.
Right.
I just look at my community and it breaks my heart.
Yeah.
It really does. I look around here because I go on vacation to other places with my grandkids.
And it's so
that
awesome.
We can, and it's like, oh my God, because like I looked at even in home on Main Street, and I've heard them talk a lot about it. I would go to Grapevine, Texas, and I've watched them over a decade. Now it's taken them a decade to do it. When I tell you that every single storefront decorates for Christmas, mm-hmm. and not a little light. I'm talking like going all out, mm-hmm. lights and embracing the community and embracing tourism.
Right.
Because you got a lot of people who go there. It's like a 2-month long thing, mm-hmm. or a month and a half. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And I remember Miss Shelley one Quillo, she did the
Christmas festival.
The Christmas festival. Mm-hmm. And I remember telling me,
I did the Grinch the first year she did it. Yeah.
She said it was like pulling teeth to get people to decorate, and I'm like, why?
Yeah.
This is it's a central place, and
mm-hmm.
people would come here, and they would spend money here. But you got to get it together.
Yeah.
Like, people need to recognize that you're going to have to do some stuff.
Yep.
That you necessarily don't want to do.
Yep.
Because it is work.
Yep.
To decorate for Christmas, and to decorate for Easter,
and
to decorate.
They go down and they put the little ornaments up on top mm-hmm. of the telephone poles and stuff. And I'm like, if nobody else does anything, that's all we're gonna have. No, like, decorate your house, decorate your storefront. be involved. Throw a $500 sponsorship for a Christmas festival somewhere.
Right.
You know, get out and involve. And with the plaza opening now, the Bicentennial Plaza, the Notary, it's so much nicer. It's going to be just a place of community to come downtown and just
But
have a
even
good
on
time.
the east side, you can do the same thing.
You
The
can.
businesses, because I've contacted a couple of them. I'm like, I want to sit down with you. I want to know, what do you need?
Right.
What in the realm
Restaurants,
of
parks,
things, what do you
just
need?
Daycare. What do you need around this
Because
area?
there's a ton of things that are for people who are wanting to go into business, that they can get help from different venues that are state agencies, parish, all those things. And then even for the businesses that are here, that exist, what is it that we need? Do we need to start putting out, even as a council person, taking all the businesses along that way in the bayou on the east side and letting people know? Like, put it up on the community pages. Hey, we need to be doing business with these mom and pop businesses, these businesses who are legal. They have their occupational license. They pay all their, God, no, if you would see the fees that come along with owning a business, you would understand why things cost the way they do.
Yeah.
But, you make sure that they're legal and you get their names out there. I mean, I look in my area, in my district, and that's what I would want to do. I'd want to make sure that would be something that we're marketing those businesses. Those businesses are important to those communities.
They are. And, it's okay to go to, your Walmart and your Target and get you stuff like that. But I mean, hey, it's also very important to go and drop a couple of $100s in a local shop, because that's what's going to happen is if we don't do that, they're going to go away and then your downtown's going to dry up, and you don't want to do that.
No,
we want everybody to have fun around
I can tell you most of the time, like people think Napa is for the cars.
Right.
Not down the bayou.
No.
That's boat territory.
Boat stuff, huh?
I like, and
I love the smell of Napa in the morning,
And then there's American Marine and there's Bayou Hardware. So we make sure that that's where we shop.
We trickle.
It's where we shop.
It's a
we
trickle
make sure.
effect. Yep, definitely.
It's important. It's important to do. The restaurants in the Bayou, the mom and pops, the Doogies, the Shack, all the places here. I do that on my business page. I'll put up, who's using local shrimp, because I think that is important.
Oh yeah, definitely.
People need to know. And it is like that because I've heard Doug tell me, or you've seen it on there, locals supporting locals. Mm-hmm. It's important.
It is. It's very important.
Very important.
Because I mean, I'm telling you, it's the community and down here, everybody has their back. Like it's like, okay, hey, look, I know this person. Like if somebody gets laid off or something, I know this person. Bum, 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 bum. We do have that sense of community down here. Why not use it to fix the community up now? Let's use it for the good. But
we used to do where and it comes out when a hurricane comes.
Yeah. Oh, it did. 2 years ago, everybody loved everybody.
Everybody was helping everybody. I remember I called quite a few people, even on the storms that didn't hit us as hard and hit somebody else or took out their refrigeration or whatever. Yep. I've called some of the people that we do business with and say, hey, if you need a freezer, like if something, something went wrong, let me know. Because they didn't have generators. Yep. Mm-hmm. And we'll throw it in the freezer down there and, you'll just we'll palletize it and you'll just come pick it up when you're ready. It's being there for other people. And I wish that what happens after a hurricane would not just happen after a hurricane, that it would be common knowledge that you can do this at any given point. So,
well, we're going to get there. We're definitely going to get there.
It's just, you got to start chiseling away.
Oh yeah. Well,
Lord, hold up.
I'm going to get you a little, let's get you a little, let's end off on something fun. Let's go. Let's watch. Boom. All right. Let's see.
Oh, what? No, come on.
This is a dumb question. Okay. How much would you have someone to pay for your little toe? Oh, that's stupid. That's stupid. Nothing.
Well, I'm not giving that away.
Yeah. You can't have my little toe at all. That was a dumb question. Okay, let's see. If you had a 10-hour flight, what famous person would you want to sit next to? If you had on a 10-hour flight.
10-hour flight.
If you were on a 10-hour flight and you had a choice to sit next to a famous person, you could just talk to them the whole 10 hours. Who would it be?
Oh my God, that's a hard one for me. I don't even pay attention to TV.
You know, you don't have like a sports figure, or like when you were growing up, did you have like somebody you idolized? Like, oh my God, this music wise, or
For me, it's not going to be that. It would be like somebody like
or historical figure. Dead or alive, it doesn't matter.
It's almost like you wish you'd have somebody funny on this side and somebody that you can go to on that side. So it's not going to be one.
Maybe it's
10
international.
hours.
Maybe it's an international flight, and you just got that 2, that 3, and that 2. You're just in that 2-decker.
Well, the whole thing is that you for 10 hours you don't want to be so serious. 10 hours you might not want to laugh the whole entire time.
Yeah, exactly. That's a hard question too. Yeah,
it is because there's not a one person. 10 hours. That's a long time.
Yeah.
After a while, you're going, okay, I'm tired.
I would probably, I love Tom Cruise, as far as movie stars like that. I love Tom Cruise and I love Keanu Reeves. It'd probably be one of those guys just to see I would love how they approach their day. Their superstardom. Like, how do you go to the grocery store? How do you do, what do you do in a typical day? Like, you're not a normal person, so
right.
Like, why are you sitting next to me and couch back here? You should be up there or have your own private plane, But I would want to talk to somebody because that's my interest. I'm a productions guy. I love to act. I love to write screenplay. I love to skit, play, comedy, all that stuff. So I would love to pick their brains, just to. How they come about, preparing themselves for a role and all of that stuff. I would love to,
I guess for me, because I'm so engrossed in the industry that I'm in, it would be almost like the Secretary of the Department of Commerce.
Oh, there you go.
Because I would like to pick someone's brain to know how you go around a law or a case and do what you want to do.
Right.
Those are things
the loopholes, the law loopholes.
Yeah. Those are things that would interest me because if you can figure out how to do it, then you can change things.
Nice.
But I think I want to do 10 hours.
Well, 10 hours with a couple of cocktails, you're probably getting a lot done. I don't know.
And then after a while, you're going, okay, enough.
Yeah,
I'm tired.
Exactly. I'm going to sleep for 6 of those 10 hours. So leave me alone. Make do.
Yeah.
Well, Ms. Kimberly, I really appreciate you coming on to the podcast. I hope you got your message out, and I hope everybody shares this. Get out and vote, man. That's important too. Voter turnout is very huge. Low.
Do your research.
Do your research. Find your candidates, what's based on your ideals and everything. And
go register. If you're not registered, go register because there's a lot in this district that are not registered.
You got your little phone right here. You can register on your phone. Mm-hmm. That's that easy to register to vote. And there's a lot of different places to get information from. It's important. We got the president and all coming up too next year. So we got our local ones here and then the president next year. That ought to be fun. I can't wait.
Oh, I watched the first debate and I was like, oh God. My head hurt after that.
Oh yeah, it did. Man, it's almost like it's almost comical now. It's like not even like, man, it's sad. You know what I'm saying? It's like I don't even want to watch this. Turn it off.
No. And then you go back and you look at who took what from whom in a past speech, and
Huh? They all the same. I want realism. I want somebody to come out and go, look, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do this. I can't stand the we're going to do this and we're going to, I dream of an America. But I'm like, you're full of crap.
Right.
You're full of crap. Let's
be blunt. Just be blunt.
Be very blunt. You don't have to be ugly, but be blunt. People
are either going to like your ideas or they're not.
Right.
And that's okay. Either way. And I've told this to my husband. I'm like, I want to do this, but if it's not in the plan, if it's not in the plan for my life, then I'm going to be okay either way. I'm going to be sad because I think that I can begin to chisel away at things and make an improvement. But I'm hoping that if it's not me, that the next person doesn't just collect a check.
Yeah.
That's scary.
Yeah.
That's a scary, scary thing because
true.
There's a lot of work to be done.
Yeah, there is.
And we got to move.
Yep.
We've got to do some moving. Put your walking shoes on and get it going.
Let's get it. Mama's Kimberly, thank you so much for joining me.
No problem.
We'll see y'all next time on the DJ Rhett podcast. All right, Max, you can go sniff. Bye-bye.